Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Report. It is Wednesday, April the 9th. Hope everyone's having a fine Wednesday afternoon. Sorry for the delay. Just going to warn you guys ahead of time here. Zach and I think both of our internet really a little bit wonky at the moment. So hopefully we have no issues throughout the show, but we had some internet connectivity issues prior to coming on, which is why we are a little bit delayed. Hopefully everything is okay for you guys. If we ever start to sound like robots or we're kind of cutting out, just let us know in the chat. Will help us kind of figure out who's glitchy and get things back on the rails as quickly as we can. Zach, very fun 5-game slate tonight. Should be a good one. We're also on the eve of the Masters. I know I'm in a ton of pools. I got the amount of DraftKings bankroll I've got sunk into contest for tomorrow already is massive. It's going to be a really fun week with the Masters. Really good 5-game slate. Another 10-game slate tomorrow. So exciting times here. Are you ready to dive into tonight's 5-gamer?
Yeah, man, let's do it. I'm fired up. This is going to be a great way to kick off the closing of the week.
All right. Before we leave today, too, I want to get not a dark horse, but like I want your Masters pick. You already know who mine is, so we'll give our Masters picks, but like outside of kind of the top 5 favorites, see if we can get lucky this weekend. But let's start with the goalies. So we've got Andre Vasilevsky likely to get the start for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Anthony Stolarz is projected to get the nod for the Toronto Maple Leafs after Joseph Woll went last night. It'll be Jonathan Quick for the New York Rangers. Ivan Fedotov projected to get the start for the Philadelphia Flyers. We should have confirmation on the Flyers goalie before we leave today's show. News was that we're expected to get an announcement around 5:15 p.m. Eastern. So in about 20 minutes time, we should find out exactly who the Flyers netminder is. Marc-Andre Fleury gets the start for the Minnesota Wild. Will be Alexander Georgiev for the San Jose Sharks. Ville Husso is likely to get the nod for the Anaheim Ducks, likely to go head-to-head with Dustin Wolf as the Flames try to continue to stay alive in the Western Conference. Zach, do you have, or at least I'll warn you here, do you have the playoff implication numbers for the Flames tonight? I'm assuming it's basically like dead if they lose. And
yeah, I think it's going to be something like that. I'm just restarting my work laptop here. So give me a second. When we get to that game, I'll mention.
We got a lot of the time before we get to the Flames and Ducks. We got the Edmonton Oilers. We'll go with Calvin Pickard. Likely going to be Jordan Binnington for the St. Louis Blues. Let's start the tippy top with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the Lightning are minus 187 home favorites tonight against a Leafs team in the second half of back-to-back. 3.5 implied total for the Lightning, 2.5 implied total for the Toronto Maple Leafs. In terms of the matchups tonight, pretty bleak for the most part on both sides. Slightly better matchups on the Tampa Bay side of things. Slightly below average matchups on tonight's slate for the Toronto Maple Leafs. One of the higher event games of the night. You take a look at the team trends charts here. Both teams performing quite well as of late. The Lightning, scoring at will right now. 3.4 goals for per 60 at 5v5 is an outrageous number. Both teams are scorching hot on the power play. Both teams struggling on the PK. Both teams though playing very well defensively. Both getting good goaltending as well. So going to be kind of an interesting game. Maybe a game in which not a ton happens at 5v5, but the power play, the special teams play tonight could be pivotal in this one. As I mentioned, this is the number 1 and number 2 power play advantages of the night. So, when you look at kind of raw power play versus penalty kill metrics, it's actually a better advantage for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but the charts have a better advantage for the Lightning just strictly because the Maple Leafs are a little bit more undisciplined. So 2.9, that extra 0.3 expected power play tonight is the difference. But overall, by far and away, the 2 best power play advantages, both power plays within the top 10 against penalty kills that are close to the bottom 5. So huge power play advantages on both sides. Not so much at 5v5. But the good news is, despite having somewhat poor 5v5 matchups, the offensive numbers for both teams' top 6 specifically are outrageously good. Some of the best on the entire slate tonight. We know what we get with Tampa Bay 1. They're incredibly good. They've been incredibly productive as of late. Really, really good metrics there. They would probably be my favorite among any of these lines, obviously because they fully correlate at 5 or on the power play as well. The same can be said about Toronto 1, right? You got Nyes, you got Marner, you got Matthews, all in that top units. Tavares, Nylander have probably been a little bit better than the top line as of late. They fully correlate obviously together on that top line, that top power play, not fully correlate, but Tavares and Nylander correlate on that top power play unit as well. So a lot of power play correlation here for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's mostly coming into that top line. It's kind of a mix for Toronto 1 and 2. When you look at the big board here, Toronto 1 actually grades as the number 1 line to target tonight, which is super interesting. It didn't work last night. But they were graded out 7th best last night. We were just trying to get to them at a decent ownership number. That's going to be the case again tonight. Just projected for 4.1% ownership tonight at 21,500. Fairly affordable price tag on them as well. With this power play matchup, I think that there are a sneaky kind of low owned play tonight. Toronto 2 grades out 6th best. They're seeing even less ownership at 2.7%. Basically nothing coming in on Tavares and Nylander. The price have gone up a little bit here, specifically Tavares. So let's start with the Toronto Maple Leafs side of things because they grade out really well in the charts and nobody's playing them. We talk about it a lot. When the Leafs are chalky, we usually tend to stay away. When they're low on, we try to take some chances on them. Didn't work out last night, but are you specifically willing to get back to them tonight?
Yeah, I certainly am. We've been talking a lot about floors and ceilings here lately when it comes to DraftKings and lineups and stuff. The floor in this game just looks incredibly high. These are 2 top 6s who have been absolutely rolling as of late. Tampa Bay's second line is probably the one of the 4 that have struggled the most here. But I got a lot of interest in both of these top lines. I'll probably be getting to the field on Tampa Bay 1. But man, like Toronto 1 looks to be in a great spot here, man. Like just projecting for 4% ownership. It seems like a really interesting spot between 2 teams who are, kind of powerhouses right now in the Eastern Conference. So I got a lot of interest here in this game. I think, overall, maybe I feel a little bit better about the Tampa 1 side in that top line because it feels like they've been hitting their ceiling a little bit more regularly as of late than this Toronto side of things. But this ownership on Toronto 1, just too low for me. And these 3 guys have all had a lot of success against the Lightning in their careers. Like Matthew Knies, 8 games played against Tampa so far, 7 goals and 13 points. Austin Matthews, 14 goals and 30 points in 25 games. Mitch Marner, 8 goals and 30 points in 26 games played. So fire me up on this Toronto side of things. I really like the way that they look. I think Matthew Knies, man, $5,800 with those numbers that he's put up against the Lightning in the past could be a really interesting play tonight.
Yeah, as Jim points out, Toronto has had Tampa Bay's number this year. We'll see if that continues. They've met 3 times thus far. The Leafs have scored 5 goals in every game. Their last meeting came back on January the 20th, though. So I think this Tampa Bay Lightning team is playing probably their best hockey of the season or close to it. They're definitely a different team now than they were back in their first couple matchups, which the first one was in October, the second one was in November, and then the third one in January. So not quite the same team, but yeah, I mean, it's certainly worth noting that Toronto has put up 15 goals in 3 games against the Lightning, and tonight you're getting them at really low ownership. Obviously, the back-to-back kind of hurts them a little bit, but then you've got Tampa 1 here at $23,800. A little bit cheaper than weren't they like 25,000 the other day? Am I remembering that correctly? Like it was close to it.
$24,300.
Yeah, so they've come down about $500 here, and still in a really good spot. Right, they had a massive night the other night. Obviously, tonight's matchup's a little bit more difficult, but again, Leafs on a back-to-back. Stellaris has played exceptionally well as of late, so that's kind of the one thing that gives me some pause about getting to Tampa tonight. But this top power play unit has been super, super good, fully correlating there. Obviously, Bjorkstrand and Hedman there as well. That's the line that I would target this evening. Tampa 2, again, they were tremendous heading into the Four Nations. They haven't been quite as good here as of late. They've been fine, but it's just not a line that I'm clicking on like every single night, which was certainly the case prior to the Four Nations break, right? Like Hagel was just one of the hottest players in the entire league, and it just hasn't quite gone quite as well lately. But if you take a look, I'm going to pull it up here in just a second. Okay, in terms of the points per game here, DraftKings points per game over their last 10. Kucherov, Point, Gensel unquestionably lead the way here, all over at least 13.5 DraftKings points per game. They've been awesome. Again, Hagel's been solid. Sorelli maybe not quite as much, but that top line really doing a lot of the damage here for the Lightning as of late, and probably going to continue tonight if they're going to have success. On the Leafs side of things, it's basically that entire top power play unit, and that's the only people doing anything, and that's basically the only way that they're scoring goals right now is through that power play just being absolutely dynamic, because they're not generating all that much at 5v5, just 2.28 expected goals for per 60. So really need to have success on that power play, but they do have a great matchup to do so tonight. Any final thoughts on this game before we move on to the Rangers and the Flyers?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it earlier. I mean, building around the power play in mind here in this game, I think is a great way to go. A guy like Oliver Bjorkstrand, $4,400 on Tampa 3 could be an interesting one-off play, or, somebody you can pair with Victor Hedman or something like that to try and get some exposure here and get yourself a little different. Toronto 2, obviously Toronto they're still running that the 5 forward top power play unit. So you know where they're all going to be there. All of Toronto won, and Tavares and Nylander as well. One other thing that I just thought was kind of interesting, just looked it up quickly. Both William Nylander and Austin Matthews are averaging half a goal per game against Andrei Vasilevsky in their careers. So could be a really interesting get different spot here on the Leafs.
Yes, and Bjorkstrand, as you mentioned, 6 points in his last 9 games, averaging a modest 2 shots per game, but does have 32 shot attempts during that stretch. So north of 3 shot attempts per game. He's been shooting the puck a lot, just not getting a lot on target. So an interesting kind of one-off pivot play tonight. The Rangers and the Flyers, not a lot of good feels going on with the Rangers right now, right? Like you got the coach coming out saying he doesn't even go in the locker room after losses, like. Just bizarre. It's just been a bizarre season in New York, and I say a lot with the Rangers. They're inconsistent. You don't really know which team you're going to get on a regular basis. But I think more than anything this year is like every time it felt like they were kind of back, they just suddenly weren't again. It was always kind of like 1 step forward, 2 steps back for them this season. Still large favorites tonight. This is a Flyers team that's playing a lot better since parting ways with John Tortorella. The one thing I'll say about the Rangers in the short term, like their underlying metrics here still, over the last 10 games don't look very good. I was looking at their last 5 games, and they look a lot better. Most of it's still coming on the power play, though, so I don't know how much success they're going to find tonight against a Flyers team that's playing very, very well defensively. It just kind of all depends on what goaltender shows up for the Philadelphia Flyers. We also don't even know which goalie it's going to be yet. So the Rangers are kind of increasingly difficult to get to. The Flyers are pretty good on the PK as well, so that takes away some of this expected goal for production for the Rangers, but they're not even capitalizing on it anyway. So like I just have a hard time clicking on the Rangers right now. They're seeing 7% ownership on this top line, 18,700. We know how good this top line is. The second line tonight's going to be Cooley, Zibanejad, Miller, a little bit more firepower on that second line. They're seeing about 5% ownership, but I don't know. Like this team could just, it's actually a hilarious way to put it. The Rangers are so out of it now, they'll definitely be back tonight. Pretty much exactly what's going to happen, right? Like, okay, now we're dead and we're going to win like 7-2 or something outrageous. So I really don't know which way to go with this Rangers team. I find them very difficult to trust. I think this matchup is incredibly tough as long as the Flyers get league average goaltending. They're solid defensively. So I'm probably not going to click on a ton of New York tonight, but I think the one thing worth mentioning is the second line's got a really nice matchup here at 82.1. They're going to see a lot of their ice time against that top 6 for the Flyers, specifically that second line for Philadelphia, Couture, Mishkov, and Konechny. They've really, really struggled defensively. So I think that matchup specifically is somewhat interesting if you want to get to New York too a little bit tonight as a get different play. They're only under 5%. Obviously got Miller's advantage out on that top power play unit. Cooley just $4,000 has had a solid season. So at 16,800, I'm willing to click on that second line a little bit just for that matchup alone. The top line is going to see a lot of that. They're going to see a decent amount of that second line too. So their matchup's not the worst, but they're going to see a lot of that Noah Cates line, which is much better defensively. So I probably won't click on New York 1 quite as much as I click on New York 2, but I probably won't be clicking on the Rangers all that much as it is. What are your thoughts here with the Rangers?
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with you here on this spot. I mean, it feels, I don't know, man. It feels really weird around the Rangers right now. Like they just signed Gabe Perreault to an entry-level contract, and they're healthy scratching him tonight. Just absolutely pissing away the first year of his entry-level deal for really no good reason. Because the Rangers have a 1% chance of making the playoffs right now, according to HockeyViz. So like they're absolutely cooked right now. Doesn't make sense to not play the young kid here, but hey, what can you do? Rangers gonna Ranger, I suppose. I kind of agree, man. I don't really know if I have a whole lot of interest here in getting to this Rangers side of things. This top line, obviously they can do some damage. Like I think Artemi Panarin at $7,600 is a pretty fine play here. He's been great against the Flyers in his career, 14 goals and 45 points in 35 games played. But, beyond maybe one-offing him or maybe a second line mini stack, I don't really feel great about getting to this Rangers side whatsoever. And I'll be totally honest with you. I've kind of got a little interest in playing some Ivan Fedotov here tonight, as a cheap goaltender at $7,200. So, he has 1 game played against the Rangers in his career. came back in late November. Flyers snuck out a 3-1 win. Fedotov 23 saves on the night, or 22 saves rather, for a 957 save percentage. So I don't know, man. It feels a little tough to get to this Rangers side of things for me, but the Flyers kind of look a little bit interesting here, specifically around that second line. Drawing a little bit of ownership here tonight.
Yeah, just to get back to Fedotov here for a second. For the most part, he's been pretty good since the beginning of March. He's had a game with a 967 save percentage, 929, 909, 955, and 966. Those numbers are great. The issue is he also has a game of an 826, a 333, and a 759. So not the most consistent, but he has been a lot better here, kind of getting his feet underneath him here in the NHL after kind of one full season. Again, if he ended up getting the start here for the Flyers, yes, just yes to the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. I am interested. I think obviously Jonathan Quick getting the start makes me a little bit more interested as well. The matchups are pretty good across the board. Philadelphia 2, as you said, grades out fourth best. Seeing just 8% ownership, I think, is pretty modest, especially Mishkov just at 8%. Couture is always one that you can kind of take it or leave it. Been a lot better lately. Konechny, I think, has been really, really good lately. 6.7%, just $6,600. So a line that I've got a lot of interest in. Obviously, I just showed the matchup. It's pretty good, but the underlying metrics here have just been awesome. Probably due for a little bit of regression here, but still generating 3.0 expected goals for per 60, 27.9 scoring chances, 10 high danger. It's good enough, especially with a good matchup for them. They're going to see a lot of the second and third lines tonight for the New York Rangers. The second line pretty decent defensively. The third line not so much. So a little bit more ice time against that third line should go a long way tonight for that Mishkov line with Couture and Konechny. The power play tonight in a pretty decent spot as well. Their power play, has been mostly lifeless this year. It's looked a little bit better as of late. 26th is saying a lot for the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Rangers PK has been an absolute travesty as of late. So really, really good matchup here for the Philadelphia power play unit. You've got obviously Couture and Konechny on a unit. You've got Mishkov on another unit. They kind of spread them out pretty evenly, but either way, I think the power play is in an okay spot tonight for the Philadelphia Flyers, specifically that second line. I'll never rule out this top line either, right? They are always a line that we've been going to a lot this year. And at 13,300, if you need a cheap line to kind of pair with a Tampa Bay 1 or something like that, I think that getting to Philadelphia 1 makes a lot of sense again tonight. I specifically haven't played them a lot lately, but earlier in the season, they were a line that we went to with a lot of regularity. And I don't mind necessarily getting back to them again this evening. I just want to see. Mishkov, Couture, Konechny are second, third, and fourth on this team in terms of DraftKings points per game recently. Tyson Forster's led the way on that top line. Cates and Brink haven't been doing much as of late. The one guy that's just been scorching hot, and I'll bring it up just because he's been outrageously hot. Not something I don't really think will continue, but Ryan Poehling averaging 12.4 DraftKings points per game over his last 10 is crazy. The thing that sticks out is right here. He has 7 goals on 18 shots. So probably due for some regression in that regard. I don't think I'm going to be chasing that. But again, the matchup looks good enough there for that third line. The underlying metrics, though, not great. I just don't think that he's likely to keep that going. But at $3,900, you need a cheap center. He has been red hot. If he can keep it going for one more game, I'm sure you'll be happy with that. But most of my interest coming in here on Philadelphia 2 and not seeing as much ownership as I expected.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a really interesting spot here for sure with the second line. I'm going to be getting there tonight in my lineups. I almost clicked on some Philly 1 in the head-to-head today, but decided to pass on it for a little bit of a different look. I think they're an interesting play tonight. Admittedly, I don't know how much I'll get there on Philly 1 tonight, just because we haven't really seen them do it in a while here. The ownership's pretty low on them, though. I don't hate them as an option. Ryan Poehling, that's hilarious numbers you got there. Crazy block volume from him lately, too. 4.6 blocks per hour of ice time over his last 20 games, 17 blocks in his last 10. So kind of an interesting play there at $3,900.
Yeah, sorry, I was still muted. I was just trying to go over some more Poehling numbers. 8 goals in his last 11 games. He's shooting 40% during that stretch. I don't think I need to tell you this, but he averages 11.9% for his career. So 30% above average. I was trying to pull up his expected goals numbers during that time. His goals scored above expected during that stretch must just be outrageous. the Flyers, as you mentioned, like the offense has come back to life here, right? Without Tortorella, Mishkov's been great. They've scored 6, 7, 2, and 2 goals in 4 games since he left. So not amazing in some games, amazing in others. It'll be interesting to see what happens here against a Rangers team that is obviously pretty poor defensively. Let's get to Minnesota and San Jose. If you missed the news, both Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek are expected to be back in the lineup this evening. Now, I put it in our DFO DFS Discord. There's a lot of kind of guessing going on with some of these late lineups, Minnesota being one of them. Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek were in practice yesterday, but did not take part in line rushes. So we don't know for sure. One of the Minnesota beats, Jesse Pierce, posted a projected lineup. I tweaked it a little bit to represent lines that we saw play together a lot more frequently in the past. Kaprizov, Rossi, Zuccarello, that's been Kaprizov's most used line so far this season. She had those 3 together. I think that that's pretty logical. She had Foligno with Eriksson Ek and Boldy, so that's a possibility, I suppose. We haven't seen Foligno with Eriksson Ek much at all this season. It's a thing they did a lot in the past. This season, it's been mostly Johansson, Eriksson Ek, and Boldy, so I think that makes a little bit more sense there. Foligno has spent more time with Gaudreau, so I've got him on that 3rd line with Nyquist on the wing, and then the big bodies, Trenin, Hartman, and Brazo on the 4th line. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm not saying that she's wrong. I'm just saying that I like to look at lines that have played together a little bit more and put them together. So fully guessed here. Just keep that in mind. We're going to say that a lot. The Oilers lines are all over the place as well. So we'll get to those in a little bit. But the reason I also like to use lines that play together a lot is it makes me building the charts a lot easier. I can look at the lines and be like, these guys have played together. This makes sense. Let's build the charts. The matchups are obviously great, right? They're going up against a Sharks team that's just horrendous defensively. Over their last 10 games, 2.69 expected goals against per 60, 3.97 actual goals against per 60 is awful. The penalty kill has been bad. Obviously, the Wild's power play has been bad, but they get Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek back tonight should help a ton. Kaprizov, let's just start with him. The ownership's outrageous, 36.9%. But like, this is a guy who's one of the best players in the world at $7,500 in an elite matchup. It makes too much sense to not click on him or to click on him. So, yeah, at 40% owned, I'm still going to be eating that chalk because he makes just so much sense at that price tag. You know, I think obviously if you're looking for a glimmer of hope, if you're planning on fading some of that chalk, it's the fact that he hasn't played in forever. His last game was January the 26th. So it's been a while, but huge get for the Wild tonight. So with Rossi and Zuccarello, again, a line that he's spent a lot of time with this season, they've been very, very good. 3.9 goals, 4 per 60 is great. The underlying metrics are pretty solid. The matchup is great. The second line also have been very, very good. And I think that if you want to pivot off some of this Kaprizov chalk, I think the second line makes a ton of sense to get to. Their matchup's actually a little bit better than the Kaprizov line. They grade out very similarly. Eriksson Ek specifically is way too cheap. Like Kaprizov's too cheap for sure, but Eriksson Ek is as well, $5,600. Boldy at $7,700. He'll benefit from getting Eriksson Ek back, getting a bonus on this power play with Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek both back in the mix. So they're an interesting pivot. They're coming in significantly lower owned than the Minnesota top line. Still seeing plenty of ownership, but not as much as that top line. So obviously I like getting to Minnesota a lot tonight. I think that both Brock Faber, who we've seen his shot volume and block volume really, start to climb as of late. Jared Spurgeon's been a good punt option as of late. He's about $4,800 tonight. I think that entire top 6, that those 2 on the blue line all make for good plays. The Minnesota Wild are a team that I plan on getting plenty of exposure to this evening. We've been wrong on the Wild a lot this year, right? They've graded out the top of the charts. It hasn't always worked out, but you have to feel significantly better about them with Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek back in the lineup tonight. Just before I get to breaking news, I guess not really breaking. We knew it was coming here at around 5:15. It's going to be Kolosov in net for the Philadelphia Flyers. It's been a while since we've seen him. I think that it's pretty safe to say that increases my interest in the Rangers a little bit. All their goalies have been pretty poor, but he has an 870 save percentage in the NHL this year, and he hasn't fared much better in the AHL, an 884 save percentage in 12 games down there. So he has just flat out not been very good at the NHL level this year. A 36% quality start percentage this season is horrific. So I think that you got to boost the Rangers up a little bit with it being Kolosov. I'm not totally surprised that it's him. They did say he's going to get some starts here down the stretch. So see what they got in him. Before you dive into the Wild, just does that increase your interest in the Rangers a little bit?
Yeah, it definitely does. And one thing just kind of, and it ties right back to Kaprizov here, so I can kind of mention it. You know, the chalk that we're seeing on Kaprizov is huge. Roto Grinders actually just updated their ownership a few minutes ago. Kaprizov is actually up to 39% projected ownership now, and Eriksson Ek has jumped up about 3% as well. You know, when you take a look at the forwards on this slate, right around that $7,500 price range, he's bookended by Artemi Panarin and William Nylander tonight. If you are interested at all in fading some of this, you know, Kaprizov chalk tonight, like getting to Panarin or Nylander are great pivot options, I think, on this slate, right? You know, I don't think it's necessarily safer or anything like that than going with Kaprizov, because the spot seems absolutely incredible, and I can see why the chalk is here. You know, the price on Kaprizov down like what, $1,500 from before he was hurt, so you're getting him at a significant discount. I definitely can understand you know, why the chalk is here. But man, like Panarin at 8.6% at $7,600, William Nylander at 2.5%. Those feel like pretty solid plays to me as well. And again, so that definitely means I think I'm going to get to a little bit more of this Rangers top line than I was kind of talking about earlier, specifically with Panarin. But, you know, this Wild side, they do look like they're in a great spot. It feels like this is going to kind of bring some life back to the team, right? I mean, it feels like they've just been absolutely treading water with their heads underneath it for the last, you know, number of weeks and months here without these superstars in their lineup. So I've got a lot of interest in getting to this Minnesota Wild side, you know, without a doubt. If you want to try and get yourself a little different from what the field is doing, I don't hate the idea of kind of going with an onslaught route here either for the Minnesota Wild. You know, you can build around that top power play unit. It's fairly affordable to do so here on this slate tonight. I think it's a really interesting way to kind of get yourself a little bit different from the field. You know, still munch some of this chalk that's there. I think it's something you might have to do here on this slate. But it seems like an interesting way to get yourself different from the field for sure.
Yeah, I just updated the ownership there. So thanks for checking Roto Grinders, and thanks to them for providing projected ownership. Upgraded to, yeah, we got Kaprizov now at 39%. As you mentioned, Eriksson Ek up to 14.7%. Any interest on the Sharks side of things? Again, another lineup that we're not 100% sure what it's going to look like. Tyler Toffoli is a game time decision tonight, so if he doesn't play, Klim Kostin comes back in. Kovalenko skated with Celebrini and Smith last game. Toffoli was projected to skate there initially, so it could be Toffoli, Celebrini, Smith. We've seen a little bit more of like Eklund, Wenberg, Toffoli, so I kept that line together. But again, a little bit of an unknown here, especially just with him being a game time decision. We don't even know if he's going to play for sure. But if he does, we don't know exactly where he's going to slot in. The matchups are obviously bad. This is a Minnesota Wild team that, despite, you know, kind of their lack of production offensively, has still been very good defensively this season. Marc-Andre Fleury, somebody pointed out, probably his last home game here. Minnesota will step up and play hard for him. I think that that's certainly a narrative you could discuss. I think that at the end of the day, this is just a good matchup overall. And I'm probably not going to get to a lot of San Jose stacks. Again, maybe a Celebrini one-off. You know, Jack Thompson's still there. Liljegren's been really good lately at like $4,400. Like, I might to get some pieces of the Sharks team, but I don't think I'm full stacking a team that is scoring 1.95 expected goals for and just 1.67 actual goals for at 5v5. And then the penalty play just has not been very good either. So not a team that I've got a lot of interest in tonight. I'm assuming you feel somewhat similar.
Yeah. Macklin, Celebrini or bust here for the Sharks right now. It has been brutal there since they traded away Jake Wallman. You know, the Sharks have really struggled to kind of get their offense going without him there. You know, the one thing that's kind of interesting about Celebrini, you know, the Sharks have played the Wild twice already this season. Once in November, Minnesota won 5-2, and then again in the middle of January, 3-1 win for the Minnesota Wild. Macklin, Celebrini, 2 goals, 3 points, and 13 shots on goal in those 2 games. I think he's an interesting one-off play at $6,400 or cash guy if you're looking for some real volume there. He's continuing to shoot the puck a lot. He's still finding ways to generate some quality looks. Just hasn't really been scoring as of late, and that's kind of been the issue for him again, really since Jake Wallman left. So I think I have a hard time getting to the Sharks here tonight in this spot for sure. Celebrini is pretty much the only piece I think I'd have interested in besides the value defenseman of all value defensemen, Jack Thompson.
Yeah, the thing too with Celebrini is he's basically drawing like double-digit ownership every single night. Everybody's still clicking on him. He only has 1 goal in his last 10 games. He's got 1 goal in his last 30 shots during that stretch. So obviously a little bit snake-bitten. But I mean, you're paying a premium. He's seeing ownership, and he's averaging just 9.8 DraftKings points per game. The floor is certainly great. I think he's a fine cash game play, but probably not going to get to a lot of San Jose in big tournaments tonight. Let's get to the Ducks and the Flames. This is a super interesting game here. Obviously, there's a lot going on here, playoff implications. Did you find the numbers for me yet?
Yeah, I certainly did.
Yes.
It's pretty much about as much must-win time of the year for the Calgary Flames as possible. So a win for them in regulation tonight, 8% boost to their playoff chances if they take it to the overtime or shootout at 7%. What's interesting, though, is the Minnesota Wild are essentially in the exact same boat right now. So this is a really important one. Like if the Flames have hopes of making it into the playoffs here, they need to win. I'm sure they would love for the San Jose Sharks to lose because that could drop Minnesota's playoff chances by about 8 or 9%.
There you go. Thank you for that. They are 3.5. They have 3.5 implied total tonight, 2.9 for the Ducks, minus 148 road favorites here for the Flames. Matchup wise, it is as good as it gets. Not surprising. Calgary 1, number 1 matchup score of the night. Calgary 2, one of the best matchups. It's also the highest event game of the night. You also have Ville Husso between the pipes for the Ducks. He hasn't been terrible in Anaheim, but he also, Lucas Dostal, we saw what he can do the other day as a chalk goaltender. He was lights out, but Husso's some good, some bad, kind of a mixed bag since arriving in Anaheim. He stopped 36-39 against Utah in his first game, and then in a relief appearance, gave up 2 on 12 shots. So overall, not great this season, 874 save percentage. I definitely feel better about targeting Ville Husso than I do going up against Lucas Dostal. But one thing worth pointing out here, obviously the 100% matchup score, always worth pointing out, but the Flames made a lineup change at the morning skate today, and we're going to see Adam Klapka move up to that top line. And good thing you mentioned that Roto Grinders updated their ownership, because he was 2% when we started the show. He's up to 11%. He should be even higher than that. He is undoubtedly one of the best plays on the entire slate. It has been he has been shooting the puck a ton. He's found quite a bit of production while playing almost exclusively on the fourth line. He has been awesome in the last handful of games. Let's just go to his last 5 games here. Now, he's only averaging about 10 minutes during the stretch, but he has 2 goals, 2 assists, and 13 shots on goal in those 5 games, 16 shot attempts. So a guy that's getting a lot of pucks on net now gets an opportunity to play with Nazem Kadri, who's by far and away the hottest Calgary Flame tonight. This line as a whole, the full stack is just $15,100. Klapka specifically at $2,800, just such an easy click tonight. Absolutely love getting to him. The increased ownership on Klapka now makes them the second highest owned line on the slate, which I think makes a lot of sense. They're super easy to get to in an unbelievable spot. I'll probably be double the field on Calgary 1. Just I feel that strongly about them tonight with this matchup. That 100% matchup score comes through for some of the worst lines in the league. It worked well at Pittsburgh 1 yesterday. A couple games ago or days ago, it was Edmonton 3. Now it's Calgary 1, who's playing very, very well. Backs against the wall. I like this spot a lot for this line. Calgary 2, another solid option. I don't feel quite as good about their ceiling, but their floor is pretty good. Michael Backlund's been a bit of a tougher click this season, but Coleman, Coronado, 4,500 and 5,000. Good floors, good ceilings. I like getting to them, specifically Coleman, for a floor. Whoa, knocked my garbage pail over. But I just feel so much stronger about Calgary 1. So I don't know if I'm actually going to get a ton of Calgary 2 in the mix tonight. I just think that Calgary 1 looks so good. But you're a Calgary 2 truther. Are you going to be kind of even in your distribution here between the two?
I'm going to be heavier on this top line than I am this second line. Having Adam Klapka up there at $2,800 really just takes that salary down for these guys as a whole, and affords you to get to some different spots in your builds tonight. I'm probably still going to have some exposure to Calgary too. They're really cheap as well, $13,500 to full stack these guys, and they've really been kind of turning it on here as of late. Providing some solid floors here once again on a regular basis. But for me, this top line looks tremendous. For those who don't really know about Adam Klapka, this is a guy who's kind of been, grinding his way through the minor leagues for the last number of years. He's an absolute fucking mammoth, man. He's 6'8", 235. He is a huge, huge guy. And that's a huge body to put up on that top line, in front of the net and stuff like that. So I've got oodles of interest here in this Calgary top line tonight. I agree with you. I'm probably going to be double the field on Calgary 1 tonight with this 100% matchup score. It feels like a really, really great spot for them here tonight. So yeah, tons of interest here. The one thing that's kind of hilarious about Ville Husso, obviously not been playing good at all this year. 1 win in 11 games played, 874 save percentage, negative 9.7 goals saved above expected. 4 games against Calgary Flames in his career, 3 wins, a 180 goals against average, and a 950 save percentage. I have a hard time seeing that, come to fruition here tonight. But I thought that was kind of hilarious because I don't know how many teams Husso's putting those kind of numbers up against in the NHL.
Probably none of them. We don't drop F-bombs often on this show, as much as I would like to on a regular basis, but that was an appropriate one with Adam Klapka. Just to kind of shed some light on how good he's been. He's the 4th highest scorer on the Flames. Wait, that's a lie. I'm a literal liar. 6th highest, 5th highest, 6th highest scorer in terms of DraftKings points per game on the Flames at $2,800 while playing 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes per game. So, to be honest with you, with my projections, I was pretty just kind of relaxed with him tonight. I could have went a little bit crazier with the minute projection, but I didn't want him to just blow the socks off the projections. I'm projected for 12.4 minutes. If he sees 15 minutes tonight, he's one of the best plays on the slate. He might already be one of the best plays on the slate. So really like getting to Klapka, the absolute fucking mammoth from Calgary. But yeah, he's just ginormous. Just huge body. And just provides a little bit more offense than Martin Pospisil does in that line.
Yeah, definitely. And one other thing I just wanted to mention too, I follow a number of beat writers for the Calgary Flames. I think it was Wes Gilbertson the other day was actually calling for the Flames to put Klapka on the top power play unit as well. I don't know if that's actually going to come to fruition or not, but it could be something to look out for here tonight for sure. Maybe a guy like Morgan Frost gets bumped off and they jam all 6-8 of Klapka in front of the crease. Something interesting to watch out for there.
Their power play tonight grades out 4th best. Their power play sucks, but maybe if they put Klapka out front, it'll get a little bit better. They go up against the 27th ranked PK. The Ducks have the worst power play advantage. The Flames have been unbelievable on the PK. Dustin Wolf between the pipes. The Ducks have definitely been better, right? We've played them a lot more as of late. The underlying metrics have been insane offensively. But with kind of how difficult it is to pinpoint which line is going to be productive, which is not changing. I don't think I'm going to get there too much tonight. I'll sprinkle them in a little bit. Probably still going to lean more towards that McTavish line. But when you look at the actual production as of late, it's so spread out among all the different lines. So I find it difficult to pinpoint exactly who's going to be the productive line in any one game, with the power play being kind of in the worst spot on the slate. The matchups being fairly similar here. I guess the third line's got the worst matchup, so maybe it's the second line. They've been probably the most productive as of late. That's Carlson, Killorn, and Cutter Gauthier. That would probably be the line that I would get to, I suppose, if I had to click on the Ducks, but I just don't think I'm going to get there a lot. Dustin Wolf's just been too good.
Yeah, absolutely. Feels kind of like a tough spot to really kind of invest the money you need to here on this Anaheim side of things. I think I'm probably, I don't know if I'm going to scratch them off entirely, but it'll probably be minimal ownership for me. I agree. I feel good about Gauthier, feel good about McTavish, and kind of building around those pieces in any of my Ducks lineups tonight.
No one's getting to them. No one is playing them. So if you want to get different, they're a reasonable get different spot, but no line grades out better than 11th tonight. So probably not. For me, I'm going to probably be somewhat similar to the field in that regard. Okay. Final game of the night, the Edmonton Oilers and the St. Louis Blues. Oh boy. Okay. So the Edmonton Oilers lineup is very projected. A couple beat writers did say that this is what they saw at the morning skate. So it is possible that these are correct. I think there's going to be a ton of moving pieces tonight, especially just because they already only have 11 forwards, so there's gonna be a lot of that. But when you look at this, Kapanen's hardly a natural center. Even Matthias Janmark, not really a guy that played a lot of center until this year. They have one legitimate center on the entire roster right now. I guess you could maybe say 2, but one's an AHLer. So like they have one legitimate center on the entire roster. And even he played a lot of wing up until a couple of years ago when he shifted back to the middle. This lineup, I tweeted it out. I don't have it in front of me, but like it's like a $44 million lineup. They have $42 million on the injured list tonight. This is a team that's an absolute shell of themselves, obviously, but I think it opens up again some value tonight. Like Adam Henrique specifically, I actually didn't even completely look at what the projections ended up being here. What are the minutes like? 21 minutes for Zach Hyman, Adam Henrique 18 minutes, Victor Arvidsson 18 minutes. I mean, Henrique at $3,700 if he gets that bump up to the top power play unit, which I think is fairly likely. If he plays 19 minutes tonight, I mean, he's a great play. He's 15% owned, but he's going to play a lot. Zach, we've done a lot of shows this year, and almost every show we've done, you've had lots of interest in the Edmonton Oilers. Is that going to continue tonight, or with this kind of shell of themselves, are you just like, okay, yeah, I'm probably not getting to a lot of Edmonton tonight?
I don't know how much of the forward group I'm going to get to. Like, I'll probably meet the field on Edmonton 1. I think they're an interesting cheap option here tonight. You know, the Blues have been playing so good as of late. Like, it kind of goes without saying. It doesn't necessarily feel like the greatest of plays or anything like that here. Honestly, though, I think more of my interest kind of just comes in on the blue line, specifically with Jake Wallman and Darnell Nurse. The floors of these guys have been absolutely excellent as of late here. You know, Jake Wallman at $5,300, Darnell Nurse $5,600. I think Wallman has the second highest value projection among defensemen on the slate tonight. You know, both Nurse and Bouchard are up within the top 10 as well. So I think more of my interest kind of comes in on the blue line for this Oilers side of things. I'm definitely going to get a little bit of this top line in there. You know, if you want a narrative play, the Oilers kind of just got embarrassed by the Anaheim Ducks on Monday night. Radko Gudas kind of pushed them around all night long, and the Oilers really didn't have a response to it. So I could see this team kind of coming in a little fire in their bellies here tonight, going up against St. Louis. You got the Dylan Holloway, Philip Broberg narratives, all that kind of good stuff. I don't think I'm going to get to a ton of them here tonight. I think it's interesting. Obviously, it's really cheap to get to this top line, and I don't hate that. Don't feel the most confident in it, though. That's for sure.
The top line, yeah, is probably the only one I'm clicking on tonight. The power play is in an okay spot. Henrique's cheap. That's probably the only line that I'll really get to from the Edmonton side of things. The third line grades out the best. So I think Jeff Skinner maybe worth a click at $5,300. Probably another guy that's going to see increased usage tonight. I'm not going to play Yamark. I'm probably not playing a lot of Connor Brown, but I think Jeff Skinner one-offs are reasonable tonight. 8% Connor Brown tonight is pretty crazy. It's not something I anticipated, but I mean, the increased minutes at $2,800, I can kind of get it. The chat is saying Binnington is going to be like 75% owned. I mean, that's what I thought. He's definitely going to be 75% owned for me. He's not seeing that much ownership according to RotoGrinders, just 12%. That can't possibly be the case. It just, there's no way. That lineup looks so bad, and he's $7,600. We just saw this with Lucas Dosal, and it worked perfectly. He was $7K, and he's not on the hottest team in the league.
Yeah, I don't know. I
maybe instead of a hat trick pick challenge tonight, let's do Jordan Binnington's ownership in the big contest on DK tonight.
Oh man,
let's call it the big $5 instead of a hat trick pick challenge today. In the big $5 on DraftKings tonight, what is Jordan Binnington's ownership? That's our hat trick pick challenge for the day. So we'll get to our Jordan Binnington ownership projection at the end of the show. But think about what you're planning on here with Jordan Binnington's ownership. But okay, St. Louis made it easy on us tonight, and they're not seeing much ownership at all. I don't know why. This is a terrible Oilers lineup. So without Dylan Holloway, I talked about it. It kind of felt like it was that Robert Thomas line. This is a good one too. Instead of a hat trick pick challenge predicting Oilers, just go a single goal tonight. That's fun too.
I'll take the under.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So Jordan Kyrou moves up to the top line with Thomas and Buchnevich. So no Dylan Holloway. Again, made it a little bit easier to be like, okay, I'm just targeting the Thomas line. Now with Jordan Kyrou up there, it's like, oh yeah, it's like for sure just that one line is the one to go. I mean, the second line super cheap. So like you could make a case, obviously, that just 12,800. I think they're a reasonable line to get to as well, just given that price tag and literally no ownership. So I think they're a fine value option. But man, I got a lot of interest in St. Louis one night against that lineup. Given the fact that they're seeing just 6.5% ownership, there's a lot to like here, I think, with Buchnevich, who's got like I think 4 goals in his last 5 games or something like that. Thomas, we talked about being red hot. Kairu's been great. They're not even expensive. They're 17,900. I was stunned, absolutely stunned when I saw this ownership. This is an Oilers team that's been okay defensively, still giving up 3.13 goals against per 60 at 5v5, though the power only kind of saving grace is the penalty kill has been great. But I think there's a lot. St. Louis one's the one line I think I'm going to end up with a lot of leverage on tonight that I can say that pretty confidently. How about you?
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, they're projecting at 6% ownership here tonight. I think it's pretty easy to double the field on them. I don't even hate the idea of getting up over the field on St. Louis 2, projecting at just 4% right now. Look, this top 6, beyond Jimmy Snuggerud, who's playing in his first game against Edmonton Oilers, has been great against Edmonton every time they've come into town. Let's roll through the numbers. Pavel Buchnevich, 5 goals, 12 points, 15 games played. Robert Thomas, 7 goals, 19 points, 17 games played. Jordan Kyrou, 5 goals, 13 points, 13 games played. Jake Neighbors, Edmonton boy, used to play for the Oil Kings, 2 goals, 4 points, 7 games played. And Braden Shen, 10 goals, 27 points, and 27 games played. These guys have been a thorn in the Oilers' side for years. I don't see that changing here tonight. I think it's pretty easy to get double the field on the Blues top 6 here tonight and feel fine about it.
That's going to do it for the forward breakdown. I'm just going to sort by ownership just to give you guys one final look here. Minnesota 1, Calgary 1, Calgary 2, Tampa 1, Edmonton 1, Minnesota 2, Philly 2, Edmonton 3, Tampa 2, and Tampa 3 as the top 10 in ownership. Tampa 3 seeing more ownership than New York 1 and St. Louis 1. I think it makes sense. In Toronto 1. I don't know if I'm playing much Tampa 3. I like Bjorkstrand, but I don't think I'm going to get to the rest of that lineup. Anyways, let's get to the defenseman here. You might notice that I included the floor today. This is the projected floor, just shots and blocks added together. So in terms of the best floors for a cheap price tag, Jake Wallman's fairly cheap at $5,300, as I can't put my hat back on. Timothy Liljegren, $4,400. Jack Thompson, $2,800. Chris Tanev, $3,500. Kevin Ball, $2,800. Joel Hanley, $2,700. In terms of just raw value tonight, again, Jack Thompson, Timothy Liljegren, Kevin Ball, K'Andre Miller, game time decision tonight. Drew Helson grades out pretty well. Lucas Carlson's been solid enough. Joel Hanley. So to me, feels pretty safe to say that if you're trying to go dumpster diving tonight, your guys are probably Kevin Ball and Jack Thompson. Timothy Liljegren looks pretty good. Anybody else that you really like tonight, Zach?
Yeah, I think those guys are both solid plays for some punt defensemen tonight. Again, I like the Oilers blue liners here tonight, specifically around Wallman and Nurse. K'Andre Miller, $3,800 looks like a decent play. Probably keeping in most of my ownership to those guys or right around them tonight. The Wild defenseman you can get behind for sure, like Jared Spurgeon, 4,800 looks fine. Brock Faber, 5,400, same sort of thing with him.
Yeah, so easy to click on Spurgeon. He's been really solid. And as I mentioned, I don't know if getting Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek back will change it, but Brock Faber's shot volume has just shot up drastically in recent games. So it'll be interesting to see. He's projected for 28 minutes tonight. No Jake Middleton. A little bit more minutes to go around for Brock Faber and company as well. In terms of ownership tonight, we don't really have that Sam Renzel super cheap guy that's soaking up a ton of ownership. It's a lot of the expensive guys. Mackenzie Weegar, Rasmus Anderson at the top, Jake Wallman, Victor Hedman, Jared Spurgeon, Adam Fox, Timothy Liljegren, Darnell Nurse, Jackson Lacombe, and Jonas Brodin rounding out the top 10. So yeah, Faber I think is really interesting. Kind of outside of that top 10, $5,400 a reasonable price tag. I think I could certainly get there. Cam Fowler I think is an interesting click as well. He's been solid, really good in St. Louis. Just $4,000. I can certainly get behind that. Kevin Ball is one guy I really like pairing with Calgary 1 as well. So you're talking about Calgary 1 already being cheap because of Klapka. You pair him up with Kevin Ball, who they correlate very nicely with at 5v5 at $2,800. Very cheap to build around them. Yes, I prefer obviously the ceiling that you get with a guy like Mackenzie Weegar, also the floor, but Kevin Ball at $2,800, solid value option. Between the pipes, Jordan Binnington. I think Vasilevsky makes some sense at $8,000. I think Fleury's fine, 77% implied win percentage. I'm not going to click on Quick. I'll get to Wolf. I'm not playing Huso. I'm not playing Picard. I'm not playing Kolosov from the Flyers. I got to update the chart, and I'm not playing Georgiev. So maybe a little bit of Stellaris, but even that feels a little risky tonight against Tampa. So a lot of Jordan Binnington for me, a lot of Jordan Binnington likely for the field. I'll probably get to some Wolf, Fleury, and Vasilevsky as well to try to just get off some of that Binnington chalk and hope the Oilers can find a way to score some goals. I mean, we're playing this. What is Jordan Binnington's ownership going to be? It's projected at 12%. I just don't foresee that being the case. But like that feels like if he's 30, 40, whatever percent, like the Oilers are good leverage. And that's the reason I want to get to some Henrique. I want to get to some Hyman. I want to get to some Bouchard, some Wallman. Like if they can put 3 or 4, somehow win this game on Binnington here, it's huge leverage because I think he's going to be crazy high owned. Maybe I'm wrong. Who are your goalies tonight?
I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of the guys that you're interested in here tonight. I really don't think I got a whole lot to add there.
Didn't even give me a chance to take a sip of beer. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let's get to today's fake hat trick pick challenge. We're going to play the what is Jordan Binnington's own percentage going to be? So what is that contest called? Well, the big $5. Is that called the poke check? What's that one called? So. Yeah, okay, the $5 poke check. 1,900 entries. What is Jordan Binnington's own percentage going to be? Zach, you won yesterday's head-to-head. Okay, here's what we'll do. We'll do a Jordan Binnington own percentage, but we'll also do a hat trick pick because that's fun. We'll give you 2 chances to win a gift card to $25 to Nation Gear. If you get either the hat trick pick or Jordan Binnington's own percentage correct, we'll get you a hat trick pick. We're not going to go down the decimal point. Just give me a own percentage for Jordan Binnington in the $5.
I'm going to go 24% owned.
24%. I'm going to go triple Roto Grinders projection. I'm going to go at +1. I'm going to go 37% Jordan Binnington. It's just so easy to click on him. I just don't understand why you wouldn't. I'm going to go 37%. I hope to God it doesn't get that high, but that is my guess. Okay, we're still going to do a hat trick pick challenge. Zach, you won yesterday's head-to-head. You can go first.
Nazem Kadri going to help keep the Calgary Flames alive tonight.
Nice. I was going to say Adam Klapka, but somebody already took him. So why not Kirill Kaprizov? 39% rostered Kirill Kaprizov. Welcome back to the lineup. Again, if you want to participate in today's hat trick challenge, all you got to do is drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. If somebody else scores a hat trick that nobody picked, we'll raffle it off to anybody that submitted a hat trick pick challenge. And we have the additional Jordan Binnington own percentage projection tonight. If you want to get in on both, you can leave them both in the same comment. If you want to do them in 2 separate comments, that's even fun too. Let's get to today's daily face-off. Head-to-head, we got 7 shows left. Zach is down 7. He's trying to stay alive and drag me into the 9x9 challenge with him. Who do you got tonight, Zach?
Well, I don't have Ivan Fedotov in the crease, so imagine that name is just Anthony Stolarz there. Don't really have any interest in playing Kolosov, who, mind you, is $200 cheaper than Fedotov is. Went with the full stack of Calgary one with Mackenzie Weegar for some extra correlation there. Just such a good spot for them tonight. Then went with the trio of one-off options here. We got Braden Shen, Matvei Michkov, and Jack Thompson. They all look like they're individually in some pretty solid spots here tonight. Zach trying to pull a Vancouver. Yeah, man. Final minute of the game. We're scoring 3 to get back in this thing.
Let's see what happens. That game was insane. Absolutely bonkers. I bet on the Canucks last night, and it looked deader than dead. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, how are we alive? And then we won. I'm like, this is insane. Love this so much. Okay, I went with Marco Rossi, Kirill Kaprizov, Brock Faber. Then I went with the full Calgary one, Kadri, Huberdeau, Klapka. Also paired them with Kevin Ball, one off Matvei Michkov. And then I went with the 90% owned Jordan Binnington. That is going to do it for today's edition of the DFO DFS Report. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Smash that like button for us. Before we go, though, shout out to our friends at Roto Grinders for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get $20 off your first month of Roto Grinders Premium, it can be anything. Could be golf. If you want to get into the Masters tomorrow, you don't really know golf, you can get $20 off your first month of Roto Grinders Premium, MLB, NBA, NHL, whatever you want. Link is in the description of the video on YouTube. Also in the description is the link to our DFO DFS Discord if you want to join the community. I know the season's winding down, but we're going to carry some of this stuff into the playoffs, at least for the first round or two. Continue to bring you some content, and if you want to join it, we also have channels for the other sports if you're trying to get into things. I'm sure we'll have some Masters chat going on tonight as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, smash that like button. We'll see you back here tomorrow, and until then, cheers.